Oh, it's already on, okay. Well, you know, I'm rested, so. Good morning, it is 8:45. Today is Monday, July the 8th of 2019. This is a special meeting of Commissioners Court of Grimes County, Texas. It is, as it said, 8:45. We're at 114 West Buffington Avenue, Anderson, Texas. Item on our agenda is consider and take action to award Grimes County Courthouse architectural and structural repair bids. Mr. Peeler, I'm going to turn it over to you for the court. Please, sir.
Al Peeler, Building Maintenance Manager for Grimes County. Through a stringent process, we have decided, it is in our professional opinion, that we would like to award Premier Metalworks LLC the bid. I believe John C. has some things that he'd like to comment on this.
Well, first and foremost, it's an award to be made by the court, and so it's up to you all to decide which you believe is the lowest responsible bidder. You have other bids that were before you, and it's up to the court to make a determination. If the court wants more information, then the court can certainly obtain more information. It's my understanding it's Al's department recommending that you award it to Premier, and I know you have the bids in front of you. I also know we may have somebody that's here from one of the other entities that bid on this today, and so if you have questions of this gentleman, or you're certainly welcome to take those. I have had the opportunity, as you all, I suspect, know, that some of the funding will come from insurance or a risk pool, or however TAC is described. I guess it's insurance. But there's a question here, an issue here, chicken and the egg, how to determine what TAC is going to fund in order for you to make an appropriate award. If you make the award based solely upon your determination of lowest responsible bidder, and you award it to the bidder at, I think this number is 1.5 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you award that, if you grant the award to that entity, then the question is, how do you fund it if you don't have 1.5 in the county coffers? TAC has indicated that there is coverage. They've set a preliminary, they made a preliminary assessment about what may be available. But I had a conversation as late as last Wednesday, I guess it was, Wednesday or Wednesday. Yeah, with the TAC representative, and his supervisor was on the phone as well, and they continued to say, we can get you a rough estimate, maybe a final number, within 30 days or so of the award, but they want to comb through the items in the award and make sure those are covered by the coverage that we had. So all to say, I'm afraid you may have to make a conditional award today and say you award it to X entity if that's above the number that the county has available, either from TAC or other resources at this moment. You'll have to make it subject to TAC making a determination that they will cover X percent or all of the award that you make. And so we're kind of left in an odd position where the funding is going to come from TAC, but TAC won't commit to the level of funding. And so how do you decide what the amount is that you're going to, or who you're going to go with? I think the only way you can do it, in my mind, is make it subject to TAC telling us that there's going to be coverage for that number. Yes, sir.
Do you know what TAC intends to do during their 30-day period of analysis or review or whatever?
Al may be able to tell you. To me, it's a lot of insurance talk about we're going to analyze the bids, we're going to see if this is the coverage that was supposed to be available. We may or may not, your coverage may not be available for all of the items that are in the person's bid. In other words, if it's not all damage related, if there are other things that they conclude not damage related, or depreciated assets, if there's some things in there they determine that their number doesn't match the number from the bidder, then they're going to come back to us and say, your number or our number, tax number, doesn't match those folks, and so we're not going to give you money up to 100% of what these folks have bid on this project.
Okay, Al, I thought when TAC came in or insurance, somebody came in,
Yes.
and once upon a time, we were given an insurance payout number of 1.3 million.
Yes.
Is that, as of today, is that no longer a good number, or that's,
Well, I
again,
think-
that's what we don't know?
Right, well, again, it's insurance talk, and my conversation with the gentleman on Wednesday indicated that they are for certain that $958,000 is there. They did say that they gave us a number of 1.3 some time back, but that was just an estimate, that was just a rough number. And so they're not saying they're committing to 1.3. What he told me was the floor is 958. But they can't tell us that they can't say they're not gonna cover 100%. They're just intend to do an analysis, and they've hired a consultant, and I understand he may not be an engineer, but they've hired a consultant or a consulting firm to help guide them through this process. So it's a bureaucratic circumstance, for sure.
We have to send you to Austin?
I don't like to be labeled a bureaucrat, but of course I am.
So, at this time, out of all 6 bids that I have, Premier is the strongest background. Premier is the strongest in everything. They've done over 20 courthouses. TAC has had the same bids that I have since 6 days after the bid was open.
And you got yours approximately when? When did we do the bid close? That's all right, you got a rough,
It's April, I believe, that we did it. April.
okay. Bid since April.
Yeah, so 6 days after, 6 days after the bids were opened, I went to Copy Corner, made copies. This is probably one mistake that I did because I was being open with everybody. I was trying to be transparent with everybody
Well, that's not a mistake.
involved. And I had a meeting with Erica, and then I dropped the copies of every bid to TAC.
Okay,
So them saying that they need 30 more days, and then they just sent us a letter saying that we had to file a letter to extend the coverage because it's been up 2 years. Well, my problem is that whole box right there I've been dealing with for 2 years, and it seems to me that it's just them dragging a boat instead of floating along. They're dragging it,
Okay.
and
but we now have a 30-day review period by TAC that they know they got this much, they're gonna review the bid, what the bid from, Premier Metalworks, they're gonna
Yes.
review that bid, see if then they're going to award additional funds to cover that bid.
I'm
Well,
taking
Is that, you see the process?
Something like that, but it depends on who you grant the award to. You haven't decided, made the award.
Right,
TAC
the
has
recommendation though
indicated-
from.
Right. If TAC, TAC has said to me, and I assume they've said to Al, they won't be able to give us their number until you award the bid,
Oh, okay.
which just seems senseless.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, and they're convinced that that's the way that it's gotta be.
That's the same comment I'm gonna make in our budget meeting this morning. It's futile to put together a budget when we don't know how much money we got coming in.
Right, right.
I understand the dilemma.
Right, and I'll make one other point. There is, as I indicated, there's a gentleman here, I think, that was with another entity, and he needs to be given the opportunity to address the court if he wants to.
Okay. Sir, would you like to address the court?
I'm just here to represent SCS,
Okay,
and wish we could have gotten the bid.
okay. Fair enough, thank you.
There,
Did you give us the,
there are any
you sent
details
us
of
the
the,
deed?
bids that are out there that
Because I
the court,
think-
my understanding is there was a concern about whether or not that bid may have included all the issues or all the costs that may be necessary for the roof, to do that appropriately. And
Wi-Fi is
Al's,
on. Let me know if you want to turn it off.
this is a typical scenario of competitive bidding, but it also is slightly different than the 262 provisions that we usually use, because this is public works. This is a renovation repair of a facility. And so, given that circumstance, the standard is typically lowest and best. You all are familiar with that. This is lowest responsible bidder, and of course, the court understands and appreciates why you want to go with the lowest if possible to
Sure.
use the taxpayer dollars as best you can. But of course, there has to be a determination. If somebody came in and bid $1, you don't go with the guy that bid $1 on $1 million project. So lowest responsible, and my understanding is Al has made his own assessment after talking with the various folks, reviewing the bids, et cetera, and his determination, his recommendation is that the lowest responsible is Premier, who is not the lowest by dollar amount.
That's correct.
But in your opinion, the most qualified?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They have the background of doing courthouses.
Okay.
They also possess the ability to get it in a timely manner done, because they know the way. So we're governed a lot by the Texas Historical Committee,
Right.
what we can do and can't do. When
Right.
we start doing Tuck Point, it has to have they have to do a prelim. THC has to come out, say, yes, that's good. I think since they did so many courthouses, that time frame would move faster than somebody that's never dealt with THC.
Right, and lowest responsible, and so we're clear, lowest responsible means that you have to have a reason other than just saying my gut says we ought to go with these other folks.
Right.
There's limited courthouse projects that the lowest bidder has worked on. There are also concerns about that work, that specific work. And so there are reasons sufficient, I think, at least according to Al's investigation of it, to determine that the lowest bidder, who was in the neighborhood of 900 to $1 million, somewhere in that ballpark,
Yes.
it is not the appropriate party to whom to award the bid. But the next, and I don't know who the next one was, but Premier was 1.45, 1.47, something like that.
Premier is 1.4 base bid, 1.6 with all the additions.
Okay. Well, and that's up to the court to make that determination, but again, given the place that, from my perspective, that TAC has put us, and I've asked for a copy of the policy, the specific language of the policy that requires this chicken and the egg problem, and I have yet to receive it. So,
Okay.
this point, we're just being told by TAC, who obviously we use for lots of purposes, use as a resource for many things, and so I don't want it to be an adversarial relationship, but it just doesn't make sense to me that you guys are left in a place to try to make an award and you don't know how many dollars are going to be available. And if you just granted, it just made the award without making it conditioned upon what TAC grants us in reimbursement dollars, let's call it, for our claim, then potentially you're putting $1.5 million of the county that's in the budget, general fund, at being responsible for this contract. And obviously, that's not your intention, I would think. So I would ask, and I think I don't think there's a problem with it. You make the award subject to ascertaining what TAC is going to cover. But you still may be, what if, and this is a real possibility, what if they come back, TAC says, we're going to award 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. You're still on the hook for that difference. Now, I don't know how problematic that is. I mean, there may be other funds available that I'm not aware of, but in my mind, you've got to make this award subject to this determination from TAC, and then for potential review after that award is made. And I asked Al to be sure and convey that to the entity that's awarded this bid that we've just got to do it this way, and we're sorry that we're put in this place, and now we're gonna put them in this place, but I don't know any other way to do it. And what I heard on the phone on Wednesday was, I said, can you get me a rough number faster than 30 days, faster than your final assessment? And the answer was, I think we can do that. And then when I tried to pin down the time frame of getting that done, there was an assertion that there had been a misunderstanding or miscommunication. And that was, no, I can't do a rough number. All I can get to you is the final number within 30 days. And because I said, can you get the rough number within 7 to 10 days? So I never said that. And I said, I wrote it down. I know that's what I heard. I can get you the rough number in 30 days. I said, you told me you can give me the final number in 30 days. Why would I need a rough number if you can give me the final number in the same amount of time?
Right.
So round and round we go, is what it is. And I'm suggesting if you grant the award today or make the award today, that you make it subject to funding determination from TAC, and the person that gets awarded today will just have to understand that circumstance. And I think that's legitimate. And if it turns out TAC said, look, and I'm just going to exaggerate here, if they say we're going to fund this to a tune of $100,000, then you got to have the ability to reject the bids and do something different. And I would hope that we can convey that and build that expectation level with the person or the entity that you're going to award the bid to.
Are they aware, Premier, of the conversation that's happening that we're speaking about?
Nobody, no. They will be prior, or they will after this meeting. I didn't know where to take this after with John C. So depending on what the court wants me to do is how I will submit to that.
I'm going to make a motion to tentatively award the contract for the courthouse reconstruction repair to Premier Metal Works LLC. And this award is contingent upon tax review and final determination of money to be paid for this project. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion before the court, County Judge Joe Fouth, seconded by Commissioner Mallett. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn. Second.
There's a motion before the court by Commissioner Dobianski, seconded by Commissioner Mallett to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
You see this letter?
Motion carries. The special meeting of Commissioners Court is adjourned.